Hello, we're back. Okay, we got the YouTube problem all settled. What happened was I had to get off and on and this and that, and anyway, if you're ever doing a video, you're only allowed to do for 15 minutes, and then it cuts you off, and it cuts off the account, cut off everything, and by the time I got everything straightened out, well, here we are. So I had to replay to figure out where I was when I was talking to you guys. This is going to be pretty much just talking right now. A lot of guys want information about what it was like back in the 60s. Okay, well, I questioned a guy once who studied with Kungfu back in the 50s. So it was okay. We came across a Japanese man long time ago on Sawtell Boulevard in West Los Angeles, and he had been a student way back then. And it was funny, he didn't remember many of the people who claimed to have been students at that time. Okay? Well, there you go. So, anyway, me right here. I've got some limitations because of my service in the Marine Corps. I happened to be in a place where they were dropping Agent Orange, and we used to make fun of it and go, wow, we're going to take a yellow shower. Who knew? I had no idea. So now, 40 years later, I'm paying the price for it. I have, in my brain, you have nerves, you have a covering on the nerves called a myelin sheath. And as the doctor explained it to me, he said if you start a car and your car has a distributor which goes to your spark plugs, battery gives you the juice for the starter, for the distributor, and everything is running smooth, cylinders are running, fine. But if you took that insulation off the wiring, everything is going to jumble up and you're going to short circuit. Well, that's pretty much what happened to me. I started short circuiting until figured out what was wrong and then deal with it. I would be in a lot worse shape if I didn't do Kung Fu. Kung Fu is what kept me going. It pushed me past the limit of someone being able to even walk. Okay? I'm fighting it. I'm doing things that doctors tell me not to do because I find out that works best. Thanks to the people who've turned me on to different things as far as diet change and what you need to rebuild stuff. Okay, so if in some of these videos I look a little awkward or I'm losing my balance or something, it's because I am. I have no feeling in my legs. Okay, my legs are pretty much numb. My hands are pretty much numb, which is kind of a good thing because I get hit and I don't even know it. My body is conditioned enough to come back from anything like that, and it's good. So that's not a problem. Anyway, back in the 1960s. When I came out of the Marine Corps and I came back to New York, I tried to study with a man named Kungfu. This way I wouldn't have to move. He was gone. He went to Minneapolis. My next one on the list was my Grandmaster Arkwai Wong, who of course was in Los Angeles, and I said, well, okay, time to pick up, gonna move. So I moved to LA, and I found his studio in Chinatown, 302 Ward Street. And it was rather ominous at that time. There weren't many people like me who were there. Okay, so anyway, I went up to speak to him. Wouldn't speak to me. Told me, take a seat. Just take a seat. And he ran a little bit of a class. Okay, I could see that this was what I wanted. This is what I wanted to learn. This was the culmination of every different art that I'd studied in one package, in one ball. Okay? It has everything, and I'll explain a little bit of that in a little bit too. But anyway, it took me about 4 or 5 times to come back before he said, okay, you can leave now. You're not going to argue. You get up, you go. I come back again. So finally he asked me one time, he says, why do you come here? I said, because I want to be with the best person who's able to teach this, because it's something that I want to learn. It's something I want to dedicate my life to. I said, okay, well, give you a try, and gave me horses to practice, stances to practice. That was it, and then form. And of course, I was a little different-minded because I had come from overseas, and I knew what was expected. What you know, you don't walk up to the teacher and go, "Hey, what's next? What do I do? I got this down. What's next?" Well, that doesn't happen. You know, everything you wait for them to tell you. That looks good. Okay, now do this. That's the way it is. You know, once you start asking, it's over. And I saw that later on. So anyway, I became, over the years, a confidant of Master Wang, and I would do a lot of the, more or less, not really translating, but I would read his mail for him and explain what was wanted of him and this and that, and okay, let's do that, let's do this. So it was great. It was my home. It was my home. I had an apartment somewhere else, and that's where I went to sleep. Otherwise, that was my home. Okay, the school was my home. That was great. Along the way, I got to meet a lot of people, work out with a lot of people who you only hear about today. Tiny was in the class, Tiny Lafidi. I was never sure whether he was Hawaiian or Samoan or whatever. He was a big guy and relied on his size. Okay, that was it. There were a couple of other guys there at the time. They left when they were kids. Douglas Wang, he was there when he was a kid and left. He had a token amigo that hung out with him, Carl Totten, who never really learned what I would consider anything, but enough to fool people. So there you go. What more? We used to go to tournaments. We used to go to tournaments to demonstrate, not to take part in fighting or anything like that, because it was kind of silly. Or do form training, you know, forms for to show, because that was kind of silly too. If you were around at that time and you knew the karate circuit that was sweeping everywhere and people were taking tests, it was, I'll tell you that whole story about when I was in Mexico with the Korean Olympic team for Taekwondo. That was silly also. But anyway, here we are now. We had a big class, West Los Angeles. It was time for me to move on. Okay, I really didn't want to do it, but I had to do it. And I've been in Thailand now for more than 20-something years. And this is about it. It's good. I can do my workout, I can practice, I'm living okay, things are all right. And I'm doing this for you guys. I know this. I know it. I practice it. People want to know it. Let me show it to you. You don't have to pay a fortune to get involved in some school. If you have the dedication, you do it. I'm going to show you, I have showed you, what to practice. Now, I'll give you some information later on where you can contact people in the States or send direct to me, and I can watch what you've done, and I'll correct what you've done, and I'll send it back to you. What a deal. All right? We'll go into that later, and I'll give you some numbers to call back in the States, or send me an email, gsteuer@gmail.com. That's it. gsteuer@gmail.com. And then I'll give you some other people to get in touch with. The time is nearly running out. If you see me looking this way, it's not because I got someone pinned with my foot. I'm looking at a timer. And I've got about a minute or two left. Okay. What else do you want to know? Just tell me. Just ask me. I'll fill you in. I was around at the time when all these guys who are making claims now claim to do this, claim to do that. I'll tell you the way it is. I was there. And let me tell you something else. I kicked their ass. Okay? Not a big deal. Folks, I'll speak to you in a little bit.